power cuts are still very much a thing in 2026. And if you saw our last video, then you'll realize that the grid isn't exactly getting any more stable either. And one of the biggest misconceptions right now in the market is that if you have bought a solar system or a battery system, well, when that grid drops, that your lights will stay on. But that is simply not true unless you have got one of these. And then you won't need one of these. This is but it's the Alpha Backup Box S, and it's launching here in the UK in July, and it's their answer to uninterrupted backup power for your home and solar battery system. Alpha claim that this thing keeps your house powered during a grid outage, and more importantly, you won't even notice when it makes that switch over because it gets the job done in under 20 milliseconds.
That's what she said.
In today's video, we're going to explain how it works. We're going to compare it to the competition, and we'll talk about the app integration. But also, we're going to let you know how much does this thing cost to supply and install with your new solar system. So let's get into it. Actually, before we start, can you just check one thing for me? Because only a handful of you guys watching these videos are actually subscribed. Now, we get over 600,000 views a month, but we've only got like 19,000 subscribers. So what we want to do on this video is try and get another 1,000 from this one. Can you make that happen for me? Before we look at that product, I just want to quickly explain why you will need one for those lights to stay on. Now, when you have a solar system at home, you will have panels on your roof and you'll probably have a battery. Now, what most people don't realize is that these systems are something called grid tied. You've essentially got a power plant at home, but it works in parallel to the grid. That's a pylon. Now, your system will connect to the grid and it will send power back to the grid, and maybe when you need power, you're charging your battery, you'll also be able to take it from the grid. But it needs the grid to be active because it's a parallel system, it works in tandem, and the reason for that is this. All the equipment in our home works on a certain voltage and a certain frequency, and when we lose that frequency, things go out of check and things shut down. Now, the grid supplies us within a range of about 230 volts, and in the UK, the frequency of all the energy that we get, or the power that comes through the grid, is 50 hertz. So that is the frequency, that is the voltage, and the solar system and the battery system are also working to those set parameters. Now, if we lose the grid, then the grid stops sending us 230 volts and it stops sending us 50 hertz. The equipment spots this straight away, and in the UK, because all of the kit, well, like 99% of the kit is grid tied, it has to shut down. Why? Well, the reason is, like we said before, when you're generating on your roof and you're storing in your battery, if you have any excess, let's say we've got 5 kilowatts here of excess power that the battery's full, the home doesn't need it, and it's going to go back out to the grid, well, there could be a little man here repairing this grid. And if he is repairing that grid, he's probably not expecting our solar system to send him 5 kilowatts and fire him off to the moon. So we have to shut down that equipment. It is a UK regulation, and if we don't do that, we would be breaking the law. So what happens? When you lose the voltage and you lose the hertz, the equipment spots it and it immediately turns off. So if it can't power the grid, it can't power your house either. So we've not actually opened this product up yet. It's actually the first time we've seen it, and Alpha have been super kind because there is only 2 of these, I think, in the UK. This is the director or the CEO of Alpha. It's actually his own personal one that's going to go in on his house, but he's lent it to us to film this video. So let's open it up and take a look. Now, I have seen a photo of it and I have seen others that are on the market, and on that subject, we are going to discuss how this compares to some of the market leaders in this space, because there's only actually a small number of manufacturers who sell a gateway, a backup box. Alpha have entered theirs into the market, but it does offer something that they don't. But we'll take a look at that later on. This is something just these bits here that are on the top of this box. This is like very alpha. Now we recently did a video on the SIG Energy inverter issues they had with those systems that were overheating, and it was all blamed on the connections. Now Alpha are a little bit like IKEA. They give you everything, even stuff like ring clamps to properly terminate those connections. They're actually supplying in the box. And that was one of the issues in that video, which was SIG Energy were specifying equipment that you had to go and procure on your own, and if the manufacturer or the supply chain didn't have it, then you were left to sort of make a tough decision. Alpha have included it in this box, which is good to see. I'll tell you what, it's heavy. So this is actually the Box S. Now this will be installed in between the system like a interruption device. I'll actually quickly show you on the whiteboard. So I've redrawn the house, and then let's add on this pylon. Now, like before, we were getting that power from the grid coming to our battery system, and that connected to our home. Now, inside the home, if we get rid of this window a second, we had a fuse board, and that fuse board connects to the lights and the sockets around the property, and it also connects to the battery. So the whole thing is linked up, and like I said, if we lose that connection, this will shut down, and that will not power that fuse board to power the house. But when you have the Box S, essentially it will sit on the side here. And the way it works is the grid now goes into the Box S on one side, and on the other side, this connection now goes to the fuse board, which is in turn connected to the battery. Does that make sense? It does, great. Okay. So it's an interruption device. It's got the grid going into it, it's taking that feed, and it's going to loop it inside there to connect it back to the house. But what it does is if that grid loses its connection, then the Box S will instantaneously reconnect the battery to the home and isolate the property from the grid. And I'm going to show you how it does it in just a second. Now, how this works on the actual unit itself is those two grid connections, the live and the neutral. Well, there's actually three because there's an earth as well. They will go on this section here on the grid side of the actual backup box. They will go inside the unit, and that connection will get made straight away back out to the property. And the way it works this is that connection from the grid back to the property is done via a relay. Now, if the relay spots that the grid has failed, then the box will automatically kick over to the inverter power supply. Then the inverter goes back, and that is also connected to the fuse board, and that is what is then gonna power the property. But like we said earlier, those inverters and all the equipment in our home needs to see that 230 volts and that frequency signal to operate. And if they go out of range, or in this case, disappear, surely they will just shut down and not work either. Well, that is the smart bit about the Box S. What it will also do, as well as disconnecting and connecting to the inverter, it will also emulate those signal frequencies. So it will say, hey, look, we've got 230 volts, here's the frequency, just continue as normal. And the fascinating bit about this equipment, and something that sets it apart from something else on the market, is it does it instantaneously. You wouldn't even notice it. It makes that connection in less than 20 milliseconds and emulates that signal. So in your property, you wouldn't even know that this thing has switched over to backup power. Now, when the grid is restored, once it's been repaired, again, instantaneously, this will automatically revert and put you back on the grid. Clever. Now, before we take a look inside of this, I can already see some of the comments now. People are going to say, hey, I've got emergency power with my inverter anyway. Well, I just want to cover off how that works and how it's different to having a gateway. Now, some inverters like the Alpha G3 range have emergency backup, and it's a continuous supply from the actual inverter itself. But the way you have to wire this is you have to take physical connections, separate them out from your standard fuse board, and put them into a localized backup fuse board. So you may choose to put like your lights, maybe a couple of socket circuits into a separate fuse board and power that from your inverter. Now, what happens in that instance is when the grid drops, there's an automatic continuation of the power to those circuits. It's not working like an interruption device because it's a constant output. The difference with those systems compared to using one of these is you can only back up so much power. You need to have a separate localized box. And also, if you have solar on your system, it will not continue to run. So you'll be running on reserve power only. When you have the Box S, the whole fuse board is backed up, and because it keeps the inverter active as part of that frequency signaling, it will also keep the PV running even if it's AC coupled, meaning you might have separate solar panels on your roof from a different inverter manufacturer. Well, the Box S will also sort of trick them and say, hey, everything's okay, just keep producing solar. So you get the full performance from your system without any losses, and you're not just going to be stuck on reserve emergency power to a few critical circuits. The product itself looks exactly like it belongs with the rest of that G3 range. Now, most of the G3 systems are installed externally, and Alpha have clearly designed this to visually match the rest of the hardware. It's an all metal casing like those batteries, and you have this sort of grey stripe down one side. Now, it's also IP65 rated, which means it's suitable for indoor and outdoor installations. That's also a really high rating when it comes to external kit. Most are like IP55. You've got a lockable latch on this side, so no one can tamper with your system. And you've got the added benefit, well, for installers, that you have cable entries on the bottom, but also on the rear of the actual system. Now, this is really important because when it comes to finding a suitable location to install your gateway, some other products on the market, like the SIG Energy system, can be a little limiting because they only have bottom entry for their cable connections, and to make it look neat can be difficult. Alpha are thinking for the installer and also for the customer, and having these dual options does make it way easier to find somewhere to install it. The Box S comes fully populated with all the switchgear already installed as standard. Compare that to something like the Tesla Gateway, which ships empty and needs another 100, maybe like 150 pounds worth of stuff adding in just to get it to work. You have to specify and supply your own breakers. The Alpha system comes pre-populated and fully loaded. Alpha have also added something called surge protection as standard, which is a current UK requirement when installing solar or renewable equipment in your home. And having this in saves time, but it also saves money. Those devices can be like 50 or 60 pounds. And for the larger homes, you can also connect 2 inverters into one Box S. And it also supports, like I said earlier, AC coupled solar. If you have existing solar like Enphase, maybe on a fit scheme, or you just had older solar that you're now adding a battery to, well, with the Box S, you can wire that AC connection straight into the backup box and support and back up those systems in those grid outages too. Now, when the Box S backs up all of those loads in your property, if you're going to be on reserve power with maybe a little bit of PV coming from the roof, then you really want to work on bringing down the loads in the home to make sure you don't chomp through all of that energy and have nothing left. But this system automatically switches over. It will move from grid connection to isolated connection in an instant automatically. And what about if you have high load appliances like EV chargers, air conditioning systems, air source heat pumps? Well, Alpha have a solution for this because they have a non-critical backup load connection. So for those heavy devices that draw loads of power, you can wire them separately outside of the system, so if the grid fails, they will just shut down and not be zapping all of the juice from your system just trying to run that big equipment. Now, that is massively useful, especially if you're in like a rural area where if you do have a power outage, it could be for days on end, and you don't want something like an air conditioning system ripping through that in about 2 hours and leaving you with no power. We were just doing some B-roll shots then with the product, and like I said, it's the first time we've really got our hands on it, and I must say it is super impressive when it comes to the construction and build quality. Everything is absolutely solid on this thing. The lock-in mechanism or the switch gear, just the weight and construction of it for the price point that it's at, which we're going to get to later on in the video. I can't believe they can produce this for this much money, or the others are just taking the I should point out, this is not actually a paid ad. Now, we do work with Alpha and they have kindly lent us this product to do this video, but we install it because we really rate it. I actually have it in my own home. And if you want to get a quote to have an Alpha system installed in your home, then head to the Heatable website where you can get a fixed price. And depending when you do it, you'll probably see this on there too. So Alpha aren't sponsoring this video, but someone is. And it's DJI. If you've watched our videos for a while, you've probably noticed that we always use DJI mics, but these are the new DJI Mic 3s, and honestly, they have made filming even easier. We've used DJI audio for years because that ecosystem just works. The new mics are compatible with everything DJI, the Osmo, Action and Pocket. They're lightweight, mini and only 16 grams. So once they're clipped on, you barely even see them. And the battery life, that's solid too. Up to 8 to 10 hours with that charging case. And a 5-minute charge gives us up to 2 hours of filming on location. And for people like Liam, who occasionally forget to charge the gear before we get to a shoot, this has saved us on many occasions. Now, one of the biggest upgrades though is the sound. Now, this is without the DJI Mic 3s, and this is with 3 voice tone presets and 2 levels of active noise cancelling. It adapts to whether we're filming in the office or outside. When we're filming in the studio, we don't have to worry about this AC unit because instead of sounding like this, it sounds like this and it won't affect the video. Video editors, listen up here. The Mic 3 gets integrated timecode and 32-bit float recording, making editing easier and protecting your audio levels if suddenly they get out of control. The DJI Mic 3s are our favorite yet and are worth the upgrade if you ask us. Now check them out using the link in the description below. Back to the video. Now, when you have these grid events or you simply want to go onto off-grid mode, then you can activate and monitor this all via the Alpha app. And it's super simple to do. I would like to show you today, but they've got a brand new app launching this week. And I don't think the Box S is on it just yet. Now, what we will do is follow up with a second video and show you how it does integrate. But what we can do now is check out how does this Box S compare to some of the big players in market. Interestingly, Alpha's pricing lands much closer to premium systems like Tesla and Sig Energy, but feature for feature, it's arguably one of the most value-focused products of the lot. The IP rating, this is where the product can be installed and its protection against like water or dust ingress. Well, the Alpha is IP65. The Tesla, that is IP55. Sig Energy, IP55, and the Fox system is IP65. So interestingly, the Alpha and the Fox have a higher protection against ingress of foreign material. Now, the switch over time, this is the time it takes to switch over from a grid loss to backup power. Now, Alpha, less than 20 milliseconds, that's almost instantaneous. Tesla, there is no official rating, but it was bench tested by an independent body at 50 milliseconds, so again, pretty much instantaneously. The Sig Energy system was seamless. There was no value given, but just the claim of a seamless transition. Now, the Fox system, that takes between 2 and 3 seconds. So in a backup event, you will lose your Wi-Fi, your lights will go out for 2 to 3 seconds, and then those products will restore. Surge protection, this is the device that's built into the Box S that protects equipment from huge power surges like lightning strikes. That comes as standard. On the others, it is not standard and it needs to be supplied and installed separately. Bypass, this is a function where if the system faults, the Box S goes into a fault situation and you lose power to the home. There is a manual override where you can open the cover and just restore the connection to the grid. That is included. Tesla doesn't have that function, Sig Energy does, and Fox doesn't. Now, the warranty on the product is 10 years on Alpha, Tesla, and Sig Energy, but the Fox is only a 2-year warranty. And the price point, this is for the product only. The Alpha, we haven't got an official price yet, but speaking to them, they think it's going to be between £500 and £525. Tesla, about £600 to £650. Sig Energy, £600 to £650. The Fox is really good value at £425 to £500. So how much does it actually all cost with installation? Well, there's cable to buy, there's containment, there's the labor, and there's the additional earth rod installation that needs to go in with one of these backup gateways. Now, here at Heatable, we will supply and install the Alpha backup box for $995 fully installed, and because currently there's no VAT to pay on battery installations, that keeps that price pretty competitive. Now, some companies will charge more, some may charge less, but honestly, for what this thing does, I think it's great value. Now, like I said earlier, we can give you an online price for this product, but I've already told you it's £995 installed. If you want to get a quote for one of those systems with a battery and with panels, you can do that on the Heatable website. This product feels very Alpha. It is well built, sensibly priced, and packed with genuinely useful features. And honestly, I'm really impressed with it. One of my biggest criticisms of the earlier G3 systems was the lack of a full home backup option. They only had those emergency ports, and here at Heatable, we could never really make that work, but not a problem anymore. Now, if you want to learn more about the Alpha G3 range of batteries and inverters, then this video on screen right now will tell you everything that you need to know. And one last thing, like we said at the start of the video, just check, are you subscribed? And if you're not, please do it for me. See you guys on the next one.